to feel the vertical alignment. And then our horizontal alignment is simply a practice of seeing what you bring into this moment. Your own preoccupation, your own judgments, your own unforgiveness, your own opinions, whatever you bring. Father, Mother, God, we are in this sacred fellowship. We have the altar of the Most High among us. We now begin to bring our offerings this morning. And our offerings are that which is our hurt or our concern or our unanswered questions. We bring it and we lay it on the altar of the Most High. So that our hearts become open, so that our hearts become receptive, so that we begin ever so gently to move toward that door between that which is the outer and which is the inner, or which is the human self and the spiritual self. The I am, that which is eternal. There is a door. And with every breath you take now, let your exhalation lead you ever so gently to that door. And then through the door, beyond that which is your human self. I am a spiritual being having an earthly experience. And in this amazing gathering of unity folks, friends on the path, I am with people who know this, who affirm this. I am a spiritual being. I'm a being that is eternal. I'm a being that is energy and yet individualized incarnation here in this body. I'm not alone. Even if I am alone in my space or in my family or wherever that I am doing my earthly life, wherever I go, I am in companionship. And with every moment of awareness, I can take the breath and step through the door. I can allow my exhalation to allow me to slide across ever so gently to something that I can actually learn to experience. Not just words, not just affirmations, but an actual experience of the larger self, the energetic being, the field of energy around me, that we say, affirm when we say our prayer for protection. And we are kindly, with affection, supporting each other on this planet to again and again know this for ourselves. For when it is sometimes becoming too difficult, or we feel it is too difficult to carry the earthly experience or the lessons that are right before us or that we are right in the middle of, we have this collective, you have this spiritual family that should become, that must become ever more real as a support, a genuine support that you come to learn what it's like, what he meant when he said where two or more are gathered. So you bring whatever people, loved ones that are with you that you want to include right now, bring them into the circle. The circle is wherever you are connecting, and you can now bring into the center the people that you want to include, that you want to know are part of this extended prayer time, that you want to know are being blessed with the light that is bountiful, the joy that is here, overflowing. This sending out prayers, this sending out light, this sending out from the fullness of this light is some of the most foremost works that Spirit asks of you to do, to be instruments, to be channels, to work in the field of love, to come to know that this sending out light, this visualizing sending out light is working in the field of love. So bring one or two more people, speak out their names softly or just quietly for the resonance, the vibration of the name, the first name, is like a little knock on their door, not your human knock, but a spirit knock, for them to sense that they're being blessed, that something is opening up. Maybe they just feel a moment of peace or happiness. Say their name, their first name. And then we bring ourselves to our collective. Our collective as a church, as a center, and most of all as a consciousness. Visualize, affirm, behold, from the richness of this moment, that light and love, courage and vision unfold and guide the organization. That love and light and vision guide the people on the board, guide the people who are willing to be on task forces and volunteers. Light and love and vision. And so it is. For we have asked, we have knocked. Seek and you will find. Knock and the doors will open. Thank you, Father, Mother, God. Thank you, Spirit. Thank you for everyone here this morning. Those who are with us through the phone lines and those who are with us in spirit. And thank you for the outpouring of joy through the daily word message that goes out all over the world in all various languages. But the word is always the same, just translated in different languages. Joy. Amen. Come back very gently. Remember, you're honoring that you're not just doing something haphazardly when you meditate, but you're moving between dimensions in yourself. And so you open your eyes softly and you put your feet on the ground. I looked for a title actually, and we have a program on our NPR, maybe you have it in Canada as well. It's called Press Pause. It's one of those afternoon political newsy kind of things called Press Pause. And I like it. I liked it. And it came to me at night that I would want to make this a focus for our conversation today, for our lesson today. We have, as our creed of the heart, a statement that says, and it uses the word, our race is human. Our race. So what's going on in terms of racial upheaval here in America, the tumult and the anger and the hurt. I know that you don't have that in Canada in the same manifestation, but I think it is here so close that it is important for us to look at it as a lesson, as a learning, and as a revisiting. One of the things, of course, that is starting to happen, first it was just fire and police, and everything that you saw was the drama, the broken things and the riot. Now you start, every once in a while, a journalist will show something that's now moving, and that is the white folks are speaking out. The young people are going to the street. And that is wonderful moments of solidarity, and something is rising up. Unfortunately, that is not making the news as easily as some of the more ugly and awful, horrendous images, including the death of this man, George Floyd. The other night, I was called by my former board president here in Santa Monica. He said, "We're all going to go out on our deck at 9 o'clock, and we're going to take our flashlights and we're going to light it up into the sky." Talking about LA, that should make a little bit of a dent. And then we're going to do that for 8 minutes and 49 seconds. Well, I don't know if I already told that to our noon group, but we were stepping out on the deck. We have a very big deck overlooking the canyons, and from the ocean, the white fog was coming in, and it completely engulfed us in this beautiful fog from the ocean, but it completely eliminated any effectiveness of the flashlight, of course. So we couldn't. But there is a person that I want to quote and bring in, who is a biophysicist who has studied not just biophysics, but also psychotherapy and psychology and the neurosciences. And he says that trauma, learning to see trauma as something that's in all of us, that we carry genetically and through the generations. Even if you've not had any racial trauma, you are in this sense of interconnectedness. Stepping for just this morning with me into the thought that trauma is in you. You carry it somewhere in you. Be that you are whatever color you are, and be that wherever you were born. You have, and he even is locating that there are places in your body, for example, the vagus nerve, psoas muscle, they call epigenetics, a stunning connection between generations of trauma that white bodies inflicted on each other in the centuries we call the Dark Ages, and the generations of horrific trauma inflicted on black bodies in what we have today in America. So, we have in our biblical stories, we have, of course, how we transpose, how do we address, how did the biblical scholars bring us the trauma that was endured through the biblical stories. And we have the word confession, we have the word redemption, we have the word repentance. We all know about that. We all have known these words, either in our religious upbringing or in our just living in the 21st centuries. In the word itself, repentance is a biblical Hebrew and Greek word, kinetic. And kinetic is about stopping in our tracks and walking in another direction. If we are a race that is our human race, if we, even though we don't necessarily need to understand, and please, I am not talking about ancient civilizations and teachings of Atlantean, but just in this very simple here and now, me in my body, you in your body, with our DNA, with our cellular memory, saying our race is human. I would like to invite you to press pause and look around and listen to a couple of ideas about pressing pause regarding our race as being human. I want to set the stage for this next 3 points by telling you the story again. Maybe I've told it before that it's very, very, very much in line with what Mark Kamen says about this cellular experience, and that when we, like for example right now, when black men or black people are in the presence of a policeman, for example, they have a different kinesthetic or a visceral or a cellular response than we have. It's not just from this life, it goes back. So I came to the United States in 1968 in the middle of the Vietnam War. I was a very young person at that time, and I came directly from Switzerland to Kansas City to go to Unity Village for an invitation by Sig Paulson, who at that time was World Unity Director, to spend the summer at Unity Village. Very nice. But I came into Kansas City, and Kansas City was in flames. It was the Kansas City riots. Half of Kansas City black rioting. And there was a group of people, whites and blacks, who decided to rise up and not to counter the riots, but to do something very creative. They decided, instead of writing stories or going into the street or counteracting the riot or even addressing the social and the terrible inequality and the misery and so on, they created an association or a group. They called themselves Kansas City Crisis, and they came with this idea that blacks and whites had to learn to be together in each other's homes, share food, sleep under the same roof, to break down something on a visceral level instead of being afraid of each other. Anyway, so they took 20 people, signed up through the universities and through various psychological associations. They were all people who were looking to be part of something else besides of just pro and con. So they took 20 white people and placed them in willing 20 black families for a weekend. They showed up on Friday night. They were invited in. They were the guest of the house. They were sleeping there, and they were eating with the people. And 20 blacks, and did the same with white families. And when I think today, all these years back, how inspired that was. Because even to this day, when I ask a white person, I did that at Unity of Santa Monica, I asked the white congregants, who among you have slept in a black person or African American or whatever person's home and has stayed the weekend or eaten a meal? Very interesting. You get a very interesting reading on that. And the same back. When is it the last time you invited a black person to your house and invited them to stay with you for the weekend? Okay, that's my little story to start out the 3 points I want to share with you about what are some considerations regarding this visceral, kinetic connection that we have, that we carry in our body and in our DNA. Now, the pandemic has laid bare our economy. It has just, done horrific damage to our economy. But it has also uncovered the racial and social inequalities of the status quo of what was. We know, I don't know how it is in other countries, but in the United States, African Americans are disproportionately contracting and dying from the virus. Why? Social inadequacy, lack of good food, good access to hospitals. So here are my 3 points that I share with you about press pause to engage you into some considerations. I know I'm talking to people who are moved in your own way to want to do something, who want to at least in consciousness do something, who pray for peace, for example. But here are some thoughts, 3 ideas, 3 points. We are each other's destiny and should act with the ethos of accompaniment. Whatever you aim to do, whatever problem you hope to address, remember to accompany those who are struggling, those who are left out, who lack the capability needed to solve their own problem. We are each other's destiny. Beneath the hard skills and firm strategic priorities needed to resolve our greatest challenges lies the soft, fertile ground of our shared humanity. I want to say something about a warning. And the warning is, I call it the trap of believing about karma. Karma is a Sanskrit term that comes out of Hinduism. It is what we call in Unity the law of cause and effect, and very easily has been misused, deeply and completely and confusingly misused, to explain things pertaining to inequality, injustice. In a way, this goes as far as what you see in India, where there are 1.2 billion people live with this teaching, believing that the person who's dying in the street you do not interfere because it's his karma. So back to us, we're not there, we're not in that strain of thinking, but I just want to say we are each other's destiny. And I am not asking you to get involved in social action. I'm not, even though Unity is starting to look at how can a Unity student be more involved in social action. In the past, we never ever took positions. We never got involved in politics. We never engaged in ideology or ideological opinions. We really had a teaching that was very firm about that. But when I say press pause, we are each other's destiny. And an ethos of accompaniment, even if that is just as going so far as you, where you're sitting right now, starting to open your vision or your thinking or your consideration that something about you interconnects with what's happening to a black person. And what can you do about that? What can you do about your own possible carrying of trauma that is racial, that is maybe not racial, maybe this has to do with, being afraid between the sexes. It can be something like that, but we carry trauma. This idea that we are in neurosciences, we carry trauma in ourselves. And a second point is, any of us who are taking care of somebody else, or who are caring for somebody else, or who is involved in taking care of sick people or looking out for sick people, who are accompanying somebody in a real way, even though caretakers alert, even though all of us who have been in that role at times know what it feels like to just feel exhausted, come to the feeling that it's taking every ounce of courage and perseverance that you have in you, that you're up against the end of your reserve. Also know that in this study, it says that when you do that, it is when you like yourself best. Isn't that interesting? I never thought about that. When I took care of my father for 3 years, there was all kind of opposition to that. My mother had passed away, way up in her years, and then my father was old, and I had this time with him that I think back that I liked myself. That is another thought. And the third one is this pause, this invitation to pause. I don't know what it looks like for you, what my musings this morning has sunk in or even tickled your curiosity to read up more about this. But the idea of looking at racial inequality, to look at what the pandemic, because of its incredible effect it has on our economy, it's unveiling more of the social inequalities. We will have more of the homeless people. We will have more people in really abstract poverty. And so it's unreal, it's you know, and on the other hand, we are interconnected. We are interconnected. I want to close with a lovely poem this is abstract, but it also can be very visual. You can imagine this as a tree, for example, as you read this. You can think of it as the tree of humanity, with all of its roots going through it, back through the ages, the dark ages, American slavery, all that. But it's a tree, and it's alive. You, from whom we come and to whom we go, unchanging love. You give us time for change and growth in this time of great change in my life. Please give me courage to change and grow, and cheerfulness amidst growing pain. Please give me courage to change and grow, and cheerfulness amidst growing pain. Let me take ever deeper roots in love. Make me faithful without clinging. And let me remain faithful in letting go. Into your hands I lay my life and the lives of all whom I love. You, from whom we come and to whom we go, unchanging love, you give us time for change and growth in this time of great change in life. All right. Can we be all visually back together?
That's so sad.